To vignette or not to vignette? That is your option. Did you know there's 3 ways to do a vignette in Lightroom? It has its own options, which is an easy way, but there's 2 other ways that I'd like to show you. So come along with me as I show you 3 different ways to vignette in Lightroom. Here we are in Lightroom, and I have 3 exact same pictures, and they are of a jackal I took in Africa last year. So as I mentioned, there's 3 ways of vignetting. So let's look at Lightroom and how it vignettes. So if you go to the Development, go to the Effects tab, I'll reset this, and you just slide it over. I like to slide it over in feather, but to actually see what it's doing and where it's controlling, I'll take the feather rate down. Roundness is going to make it a little rounder. Midpoint, just again, kind of like a feather. I definitely do like to feather it a bit. But you don't have a lot of control. Well, you got 4 things you can control. So you really don't have a ton of options with it. But if you're just learning, we're just starting to vignette, it's probably a pretty good way of doing it. So I'm going to leave it a little bit heavy so that you guys can see. So you guys can see how that vignette worked out. So let's go to the second image. I'll reset that one. Interesting. I know I did reset all these. Okay, so the vignette is set off of this one. Another way you can do it is with the radial filter. Now with the radial filter, I'm not just doing the corners as per se the vignette was. I have total control over where my vignette, if you watch this white circle that I'm working with, a white line here, I don't have to have a regular vignette. I can move it about, and I have a little bit more control over it. So that's one of the things. And you're going, well, you haven't seen a vignette yet. Well, you're right. Over here in the panel, I've inverted it. So with the invert, I can bring it up. But if I go to the basic panel, I can take the exposure down. So that's a little bit of a way that I can really gain a little bit of control over my vignetting. Now the only problem with this version or this way of doing it that I really see, if I take the selected mask and you see I've got it feathered across, I can bring the feathering down if I want. Again, select show mask overlay will allow me to grab that overlay. So when I do it this way, the thing that I'm really being cautious of is I want my exposure proper on the animal. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the rest of it down. So, but it's going to go all the way around. I have this fairly decent control over it. You know, that's one of the things that I like about it. I've got some decent control over it. Plus, I can still work and add some clarity in that with on the jackal. So that's kind of the second way that I kind of like to do it. Again, by showing this, I know exactly where I'm working. Sometimes you have to be careful. I'm going to close this down. You have to be careful because see how I've blown out the rocks underneath the jackal? So if I like, I can go back and I can actually select the brush, select the eraser, choose a flow and a size, and I'm going to bring the flow down to about 50. And I can actually just, if those rocks are bothering me too much, I can work with a little bit to get it back. But that's kind of like, a little more control over what I'm doing. So I have a little bit more control. As you can see, my vignette isn't equal all the way around. Kind of like where I like to kind of put things. So it's not 100% equal all the way around. But it is a good way to do the vignette. I can just add it. Oops. And go back to the top. So you can see the difference there. Post without the vignette, with the vignette. So that's the second method. So if I look at the third method, something that I like, and this is really a little bit more difficult to do, but once you understand it, you really gain some really good control. So with the graduated filter, I can start to add and create my vignette. So one of the things you want to know is if you're drawing and you're going crooked, if I hold my shift button down, when I start the drawing, let's do this again. I'll delete that. Hold my shift button down. See, I can go straight. Now, see, I can control this. And you're going to say, whoa, isn't that cool? If I want to bring one in from the side, and bring one in from the top. Now the same thing applies here, that if I don't like it where it's going, I can show it because I know it's on the ears. Select my eraser, bring the flow back up to 100. And I can just get it all off his ears. I didn't do very good there, but and again, I have total control over this so that I can go back and I can make changes. I was in the vignette on this side. Yep, I can go back and I can hit the eraser. And I can take it off. His face. But you can see how I have a little bit more control over the vignetting. So on this one, I have that little bit more control over how I control the vignette and make it that much more natural. You can see in this one here, if I look at it, it's over his paws. So I want to, again, select the eraser. Just want to get it off his paws. maybe what I'll do is I'll bring it down a little bit. Yep, done. So I look at it before and look at it after. A little bit more control. Again, if I need to adjust, it's 0.7. That's 6, 9, 6, 2. And if you want to add another one, you can hit the new button. And I want to bring it in just a little bit darker through here. I can continue to add them. Now I'm going to make them all just a little bit darker so to make sure that you guys can see it on the screen. I normally wouldn't go quite this dark, very close to it. But again, you can see down here in the left corner, it might be a little bit dark. So if I go back to the filter, click on it, I don't need it down to 1.8. I can probably just bring it up to maybe -3, -4. Again, if I just show you what it looks like, off, on, off, on. So it just brings your eyes more towards the jackal again. So let's go to the library. We'll select all three. So there's 3 different ways of doing vignetting within side of Lightroom. There you go. So you have options. That's the great thing about using software is there's not just one way to do something. There's a couple of ways to do things. So if you're not liking the regular vignette, you have an option to do other vignettes, which I think is actually pretty cool. So if you like the video, leave a comment below. Leave a comment below anyways. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. And subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Who Said Photography. Keep shooting.